Guys, welcome back to the Peak Performance Podcast, and very excited today to have our first full-time elite professional athlete, 250-plus game AFL player. He's done it all. Brodie Smith, thanks for joining us. Great, man.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Mate, the reason we wanted to get you down, obviously we've been highlighting lots of people within our community. Now, I'm always transparent in saying we get a lot of low to mid-range average spuds reaching out to us. Let's be honest, I'm not going to name any names here, to say, hey, Bakes and Jamie, can you give us a free membership and we'll flick up like a story on our socials for you, and we look at their socials and they've got 1,600 followers and like, mate, come on. No. For you though, it's the complete opposite. And for us, this just says so much about your character. We're not just going to be here to pump wind up your ass for 30 minutes. But I just wanted to preface by saying, there is a range of personalities, both in semi-elite and elite professional sporting environments. But for us, Jamie and I, once per year, get an email to say, because you can sign up online, Brodie Smith has just signed up for a full price membership, which for us, we obviously don't expect for somebody like yourself who is in the environment that you are, that has very limited time, but just means so much to us about the way that you've supported our community, and you've never, ever expected anything back, mate. So thank you for that. I guess, firstly, do you have sort of any ideas how you've stayed so humble despite what an incredible journey you've had, mate?
Well, too kind to start with, firstly. I'm not sure. I think I don't like to ask for things, and I think if you've got a good product, I'm happy to pay for it, which is what you've got here at Peak, and you always have. So clearly, gym is a crucial part of what I do for work as well. So off season, it's just a great way to come in here and to train. And with the setup now, with the saunas and the ice baths and everything, it's great for a professional athlete to have something like that, and obviously live just down the road as well, which makes it handy. But yeah, I've just never been one to sort of expect things from others or ask for things, and happy to pay my way, as I said, when there's a good product.
Mate, we really appreciate it, and it speaks volumes. I guess from that perspective, you're the first person that we've talked to. Everybody to this point in time has been really centered around, how do you squeeze exercise or training in around everything that you do? You are a man who has to do it for a living. So maybe if we rewind a couple of years ago now, mate, when you first got picked up, what age did you get picked up at?
18. So
18.
Yeah, and I'm January born, and the draft's in November, so I was almost 19, but yeah. 18.
So what is, I guess, your relationship with training? And that might be a super broad question, and feel free to go as in-depth or as zoomed out as you like. But your relationship with training, were you, when you first got picked up and prior to that, a guy who loved pre-seasons, or were you somebody who just loved getting out and having a kick, and you sort of did what you had to sort of get by? Where were you on that spectrum?
It's interesting because in my juniors, well, I've always just loved footy, clearly. But in junior footy, it was always go to training. It's skill-based. You just run around, and you're probably doing a lot of conditioning in the drills, but don't realise it because you're chasing the footy around or chasing your mates around. And it wasn't until I went into the Eagles and did an under-17 pre-season, and one of the first session was 4 1Ks. And I thought, righto, 1Ks, whistle goes, sprint out. And it wasn't until I got halfway through the second, I thought, I'm in big trouble here. Like, what is this fitness-related stuff? And that was a big learning curve and eye-opener for me to go, right, there's more to footy than just chasing the footy around with your mates. Like, there's some training I have to do here. And I was all skin and bones as well. So then I got introduced to the gym quite late, probably 17, 18, and had a lot of work to do there. But I just started to love it. Yeah, I loved the extra running. I still love running now in the off-season, putting my runs up on Strava and all that sort of stuff. I love doing that. And then the gym, I think more for me, the gym is based around probably numbers. I love seeing the numbers and, all right, I'm benching 60 kilos for 5 reps, when I started. And then all of a sudden it's, now I'm doing 70 for 5. And what's my PB? It's 80, now it's 90. Like, I've always enjoyed that sort of process of, I guess, seeing the results. And, but yeah, one thing I think, the off-season training, I'm probably much better in the gym when it's, right, here's my program, can come in here and it's like I've got my own time, rather than at the footy club, got big Josh Emmanuel yelling at me saying you should be doing your Nordics and your deadlifts and how many reps have you done, put more weight on, and that's when I kind of go, oh, this is tough. But But yeah, I have always enjoyed the training side of footy.
Going back to those full 1Ks, were you one of those annoying blokes that was like 60 kilos that was running like sub 3 minutes and you're just, he's only running really well because he's got no weight to carry around? Is that one of those blokes?
Once I got to the footy club, so once I got a couple of years under my belt and got to the Crows, I was probably, we've had so many tests over the years, but 5-minute runs, 3K, 2K, multiple 1Ks, thanks to our man Burjo brought that in. But yeah, certainly early days, I was sort of in that top 5 range. And as I said, I was literally skin and bone, like I had nothing on me. So I'm sure some of the older blokes at the time were looking at me going, that doesn't count.
Look, I might be jumping the gun here and, maybe this is something, again, that's a bit presumptuous as you are obviously still in the system. But if you talk about training for numbers and you're saying you're really goal-driven and that's something that drives you, particularly in the gym, when maybe you hit life after football, in a podcast we did with Jared Walsh, he was talking about professional athletes and sort of what happens post-sport. If that's something that really motivates you in a training aspect, have you thought about maybe what fitness will look like for you post-sport?
I have a little bit, yeah. As I said, I enjoy running. So certainly, your marathons and that sort of thing.
Which is nuts.
I'm
not a professional athlete by any means, but if I don't have to chase a netball around, I'm not running.
No,
so
I have.
Props to you.
I do enjoy, I'm looking forward to be able to go for a run without having that max effort sort of attached to it. So obviously now off-season programs, it might be like 10 100s on the minute, whatever it is. And so you're sort of on the rivet the whole way. I'm looking forward to just going out for a cruisy run and seeing, how far I can run. And again, the numbers comes into it. Can I do 15, 20, 25? Like, where can I take it?
I guess it's almost a bit, maybe on the flip side, a bit restrictive. Like obviously your body is part of your job, so you do have to do certain things in order to perform. So as you're saying, well, I can't just go for feel, or I can't just go and do something that I want to do because you're a well-oiled machine essentially.
Yeah, that's right. And it's everything, again, talk about Burjo, but everything he sets out for us is for a reason. So if it's, you've got an 8K session here with this amount of speed and at this intensity, he set that for a reason. It's not do it at whatever intensity you want and then go and do a 5K jog afterwards. Like he knows that 8K is right, what your body needs, no more, no less sort of thing.
Did he tell you to talk about him before he came?
He
so
didn't.
I talk about him enough already.
He honestly didn't.
Jamie's just in a Burjo love fest right now, but that's okay.
He is the guru. But so yeah, I've sort of, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm looking forward to, all right, this is what I can do now, and this is what I want to do. In the fitness space, but where that goes, I'm not really sure. I'm sure I'll still get into the gym. I'm not sure if there'll be any of those high intensity classes with people yelling at you, though. I'm not sure that's my go, but I'll certainly keep fit, that's for sure. That's
a good question. Have you done any like little HIIT classes or anything like that as your beautiful partner taking you down to like an F45 or something like that, or is that completely, out of the question because you have to be so specific with your training?
She has. So Lisa's taken me down to Strong.
Yes.
So done, and that was a rude shock.
Was that at Port Adelaide at all?
At Henley.
Yeah,
so
great. Amazing.
They were lucky enough to look after us. And,
how did you go?
Nah, struggled big time. Had the shakes, everything going. So introduced the reformer, and that was not my go. So even like I've done a few of the HIIT classes and the battle ropes and the ski erg and that sort of thing. And you think, I'm fit from footy, like I'll be okay. But it's a different ball game. It's different fitness. And one of my best mates, his wife took me down to one of her sessions as well, and she put me to the sword on the ski erg. And I was like, hang on, like I should have her covered. But it's just different worlds. So
you're just surrounded by PE Nation and right away clothing. And
yeah.
It's
everyone going nuts.
You sort of touched on it a little bit. I find it really intriguing, and there's always sort of this constant debate in the S&C world. Sort of almost seems circular in a way. So you sort of talked about the fact that at the Eagles you're doing 4 1Ks, and then fast forward, how many years you been playing now? Is it
15
season? Yeah, 15th season, and Burjo's doing repeat 1Ks.
Yeah.
How have you seen, I guess, that evolution of S&C? Are you seeing the same things repeated over again, or is it just refining things? Like, have you thought about it that much, or do you just rock up and look at your app or your piece of paper?
Yeah, no, it's definitely changed slightly, I guess, over the years. I guess everyone, different fitness coaches come in, have different values and look at things a bit differently. So, as I said, when I first got there, it was a 5-minute run, which is literally just run as far as you could in 5 minutes. So there's a bit of a tactic to that as well. Like it's not just being who's the fittest. It's you've got to run a tactical race and these sort of things as well. Then it went to 3Ks, then it went to 2Ks. And then, as I said, Burjo came in and brought in the 4 1Ks, which I think is more of a mental battle. That's what he gets out of it. Anyone can, well, he says anyone can run a good 2K time, but can you keep repeating those efforts? So 4 1Ks takes 30 minutes once you have your break. And so it's 30 minutes of pain that no one looks forward to. So, yeah, everyone's got their sort of different views on it. But even like ice baths, like it's 8 minutes cold, and then all of a sudden, it's 6 minutes. Then it's 5 minutes with your nipples under, and then it's hot cold. So everything just keeps changing. But my views on it is, especially in the recovery space, I think the more you can change it up and I guess keep your body guessing and try different things, that's the more beneficial I've found it. Yeah.
Just on that, I'd like to touch on a little bit of, I guess, the more mental or psychological side of sport. I know I obviously I love you, Burjo, but I'm probably not in on the love fest that Sean shares for you. So I have listened to some of those conversations, and S&C is not my world, but I know that he is really big on that mental side of things and resilience. So how have you seen the landscape change in professional sport in terms of the mental side of things?
Yeah, significantly. So especially in the space of club psychs, that sort of thing, and I think
did that exist when you started?
Well, to a degree. So we've always had a player development manager who sort of looked after off-field, on-field stuff, and I guess they sort of dabbled in that early as well. If you were feeling a bit stressed or whatnot, they'd look after you. But now it's gone into the psych space of yes, they're there if you got any mental health issues or you're too stressed out, anything's going on. But it's more in the space now of performance. So how can you mentally perform at your peak at training, in games? So it's sort of
proactive
yes, it's still there for
reactive.
Yeah. So how can we best prepare you to perform, not just physically but mentally, and just being able to understand, I guess, that space and your body as well. It's not just about go out and run as hard as you can and you'll be fine on a Saturday. There's actually steps to take during the week to keep you in a good space. And there's plenty of pressures now as well with, social media and people betting on games and, fans. And we're in the space where we haven't played finals in a lot of years, so expectations higher. So if that all starts to dawn on you, you can really chip away and put you in a bit of a bad space. So it's about, as you said, being proactive and guess getting yourself ahead of that.
Yeah, it's interesting talking about that social media space. Have you had to deal with many trolls or much of the the noise out there? Are you good at shutting that out, or has that been a process? Because not to say anything about our age at all, but I'm sure maybe when we were a bit younger, we were sort of like the experimental generation for social media. We started out. Did you have a Bebo? And then a MySpace back in the day. MySpace, yeah. MSN. Yeah. So we were still learning about this too. Have you found it easier as you've got older to separate yourself from it? Has there been some strategy you put in place to try to avoid that sort of stuff?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I guess I think I've been able to laugh it off a lot throughout my career, and I touched on the gambling one, and that was something that really came into vogue probably 5 or 6 years ago, where I think the same game multis and that sort of thing started to become popular. You could bet on each individual to have X touches and whatever marks, goals. And we found a period where if you had, say, 19 touches, you knew it was coming. You'd go onto your phone, everyone's got your 20 plus or whatever it is. And so some of them were brutal, but as I said, if you've had a win, you've had 19 touches, you're like, I'll open this up, whatever. Yeah. And it's like, you owe me $1,200. Like, you're a disgrace. And you're like, oh, right, that's pretty funny. But I think last year I probably let myself slip a little bit and read into it a little bit too much. I had a difficult year with selection and then, age coming into it and the team not going so well. So sort of towards the end of the year, it was like pushed out of the side. And before I came out of the side, and then someone actually sent me it got leaked that I was being dropped that week, and someone from Channel 7 had put a thing up, and someone sent me the link to it saying, like, what's going on here? And I said, I'm not going to play this week. But then all the comments came with it, and I started reading through the comments, and it was your own supporters being like, finally, like, oh, he's out, thank God. And I'm like, oh, hang on a second, like, that's... And then you you get caught reading comment after comment, and you're like, oh, that's pretty flattening. So I think so I slipped into sort of reading into them and then letting it get to me a bit. And I'm like, oh, my own fans don't want me to play.
Yeah.
And then, but then you see fans, you know, at the supermarket or whatnot, and they're like, oh, I hope you get back in. Like, we're rooting for you. So it's like, oh, it's not all bad. There's just that small percentage, I guess, on social media that if you read into the comments.
5% can feel like the 90% when you're seeing so much of that in front of you.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's, good you've got that perspective. And
so it's definitely something I've learnt from, and now I don't, whatever the club put up, I don't go into the comments or read it. And sort of passing that on to the young boys as well, because there's some pretty brutal comments on there targeted towards individuals as well, and your teammates and your good mates, and you start to feel for them, and you're going, God, I hope he's not sitting at home reading that. Like, that's brutal. So we do a lot of education around it, but I think, the message to teammates has always been just don't, if the club puts something up, just don't read it. And even if it's a good thing, like a young player, you know, Sid Draper will go through it. He's going to be a superstar and he's playing good footy, and right now it's all love, and it's sort of like, just don't even read the love as well, because, you know, eventually it's going to come back the other way. So if you get caught reading all the comments, it can spiral out of control.
Yeah, like, it breaks my heart, you know, and we just talked about what a unbelievable character you are, and I couldn't think of anybody who's less deserving of that sort of stuff. And I just sort of imagine, you know, if we copped the same criticism for our roles, you know, I think, again, I know we've touched base on him a few times. Walshy, he just said, we're all the same, just some of us have more public jobs than other people.
Yeah.
So those sorts of things, you know, are super impactful. You know?
I think that's the other thing as well. Like, they only know you as a footballer. They don't know you as a person. So they're seeing Brodie Smith, the footballer, and they're not happy with my form, and so they want the footballer out. They're not attacking me personally. So that's something I learned as well. You got to sort of separate your football life from your personal life. They don't think you're a shit bloke. They just
do
think
you have
you're not going too well on the footy field.
Do you have a different persona for the footy field as well? I was talking to, fortunate to work with the Jindu Academy. I was talking to Lindsay Thomas yesterday, who's a coach alongside me, and he said, you know, he was one of the most hated guys in the AFL. But if you know Lindsay personally, he's just, again, a beautiful man. However, when he stepped across that white line, had a different personality, and I think enjoyed hurting blokes at different stages. Do you have a different persona at all?
I've actually, he's one of my better stories in terms of sledge early days, Lindsay, and I've met him off field.
Sorry if I brought some shit up.
No, but it's a great point, because on field I was a young bloke, and he was playing a really good game. He kicked a few goals, kicked a couple on me, and walking back, and the game was done. Like, we were getting smashed, and he's like, "Oh, you're from South Australia? Who's your SANFL club?" And I'm like, "Oh, Lindsay Thomas, this is cool." I'm like, "Oh, they're the Eagles." He goes, "You'll be back there next week." And I was like,
Lindsay,
I just fell straight into his trap. But I've met him post. He's a lovely bloke.
He's a lovely guy.
It's a perfect point. Like, on field, you're a different person to what you're off field. You're sledging blokes. You're doing whatever you can to win. You're hitting in hard. So you have to sort of take on a different persona. You can't, like, I'm pretty laid back. You can't go out in the field and be laid back. You'll you'll have a poor game and you'll be a step off.
Not to sort of get too deep and dark, but I guess talking about your sort of relationship with training. Obviously, 2017 was a great year for the club, and unfortunately in the final series you did your ACL. Now, again, we've had a number of guests, you know, even one of our own here, Stephen Kelly, who we've talked to about that ACL rehab. Again, I just see a different spin on it in your circumstance, because these people potentially had these circumstances which turned them away from sport and thought, you know, I'm just going to go chase my career now, because for you, this is your livelihood. So can you rewind back? Have you still got that in your memory, or did you erase it at all? And what was your rehab journey?
Yeah, no, it's pretty hard to erase missing a final series and a grand final. So yeah, that was a really difficult month for obvious reasons. Obviously, the boys, I did it first 10 minutes of the qualifying final after playing all year, and then boys
kicked the snag as well, by the way.
Kicked the first goal, so I thought this is going pretty well. And then just a chase down tackle, I changed direction and my knee just didn't go with me and felt a pretty big clunk, and didn't know, I didn't have any major injuries to that point. I've broken my collarbone, but that's pretty different. But I just knew, I was like, this didn't feel good. It's not good. And then obviously it wasn't. Boys win the prelim, go on to the granny, and you're like, that's everything I've ever dreamed of, is playing in a grand final. You know, most weeks you go to bed thinking about, imagine what it'd be like, the final siren of a grand final. And then, so that's obviously all I could think about in the lead up. And bit of a funny story, but sad story for me. I went over to Melbourne for the grand final, and the boys were all doing the parade, so sitting in the cars, and they were sending photos through the group chat. And I'm like, this is just, turned my phone off.
Where were you?
I was in a cafe in Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm turning my phone off just on my own. Put my phone away. I was like, I'm just going to have a meal here and just zone out. But it was one of those cafes in Melbourne, I don't even know if they still exist, where like all of a sudden like this rock music goes off and they come out in the rollerblades and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're all singing and dancing and I'm sitting in this chair like, get me out of here. What is going on? So yeah, that was, can have a laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But then the rehab process, I sort of had that month. You can't do much anyway. I had a bit of medial with it as well. So I was in the locked brace for the first month. So that was pretty much just do nothing. I had the little shockwave on the quad going. So I just said, I'm just going to take this month, just do nothing, like get through it mentally and stuff. And then got stuck in my rehab because obviously the boys lost, which to me was really motivating to be like, right, well, next year's our year. Like I'll make sure I'm back. Obviously ACL is normally a 12-month rehab. So I had this real, I guess, carrot dangling in front of me of, right, get yourself back late next year, playing the finals next year. So I just went to work, like off seasons, obviously normally boys go to Europe and Bali and stuff. I just went to the gym with the physio, Duncan Kellaway, who was awesome. So 3 or 4 times a week, we're just in the gym doing, well, you lose everything. So like your hammy curls are like 5 kilos and all that sort of stuff, which again, back to the numbers. I just broke it down. I was like 5 this week, 10 next week, 15. And it started enjoying that process. It gets pretty tedious when you're walking over hurdles every day. And but yeah, just went to work and had an opportunity to bulk up as well, do a heap of upper body weights, smash the protein, all that sort of stuff. So just found opportunities to, I guess, get better. And, you know, Sloaney talks about it when he went through his as well. You've got to find the positive in your situation and find a way to get better and come back a better athlete. And I was lucky enough to go to America and see Bill Knowles, who's a bit of a specialist over there.
Superstar.
Yeah, so he's had some big names roll through his gym. So when he was talking me through the names, I'm like, oh, I don't think you realise what I don't really do much. But he was awesome.
Did he use it? So I was fortunate enough to present at the same conference that he did over in the UK. Push, don't squish. Did he say that to you like every day?
Yeah,
Push,
don't
squish.
A lot of different terms like that. But like, even something I learned with him straight away was we're just doing like a leaning tower exercise against the wall. And so I was up against the wall holding on. He's like, right, turn your glutes on. I was like, yeah, okay, yep, done. And he's, you know, pressing against it. He's going, turn your glutes on. I'm like, yeah, I know what my glutes are. Like, I've turned, he's like, no, like, your right glute is not working. Like, there's nothing going on there. So then he went to work with that and then discovered that, like, I've just never used my glutes because of the way, I guess, my body is made out and the way I've trained. I've never targeted my glutes specifically. And so he goes, well, there's no wonder you've tried to change direction and done your knee. Like, your glutes aren't activated ever, so you're putting pressure through everywhere else. So it was a good learning curve to me to be like, right, I can't just go in the gym, do squats and bench press. Like, there's so much other things that you can do to make yourself a better athlete and target, you know, areas in your body. So that was a huge positive to come out of the rehab for me as well.
So has that changed your approach ongoing? Do you still use some of those lessons here and there?
Yeah, well, prehab's become huge for me. Mobility as well. So well, that was 2017, 2018 when I went and saw him. So the last 7 years I've attacked training a lot differently in terms of my preparation and little different things I can do to make sure my body's sweet.
I'm surprised they didn't show footage of you because he had videos of big Nick Nat up on the screen, like jumping over bags and doing backflips and barrel rolls. But I'll go hit up Knowles and just say, mate, we'll get Smithers up on the screen.
It was pretty nice. The driver that takes you from the hotel to the training centre, he asked who I was and what I was doing. He's like, you got to be training for something. You're wearing Nike every day. And I'm like, gave him my story. And then the next day he picked me up. He's like, oh, I Googled you. He's like, you're insane. You're amazing. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks.
How good is that? I guess sort of continuing on that theme with navigating training and mindset through some challenging situations, probably the most notable, obviously, is you probably lived through an occasion that I can't even think of that's ever happened in my lifetime. You lost a coach, you know, in terms of Phil Walsh, who unfortunately lost his life while you guys were in competition. And talk to me, I guess, around more around the fact of how you navigated that circumstance. Was training and competition and exercise something you lent into more to motivate you and maybe distract you from what is an incredibly challenging situation, or did you need time away from that to help find yourself and process that? Feel free to take that wherever you want to, but yes, I guess really intrigued to see how you navigated that situation.
Yeah, it was obviously terrible circumstance, and got a call. I think it was about 5:30 in the morning, and or now I have the sleep mode on my phone, so if someone called me at 5:30, it wouldn't even go through. So, but back in the day, the phone rang, and I'm like, I heard the noise and looked at it, and it was someone from the club. I'm like, this can't be. This is not good. Got the phone call and just said, yeah, Phil's been murdered, and you're like, I'm laying in bed, like, what do you mean? And so they just said, just get to the club as soon as you can. Rolled in, we were in the players' lounge, and it was just like empty souls sitting around, like, what is going on here? And obviously we got the rundown and go from there. And we meant to play Geelong that week, but clearly no one was in the space to be able to train, let alone perform on game day. So sort of had that week off, and I think clearly the team and Tex and Sloaney as the leaders at the time, they were incredible. Obviously, Danger was there as well. Who, being leaders of the group, would have been super close to the coach. We're all close to them, but the leaders always have that deeper connection and put a lot of time together. So as much as they were hurting, like, their leadership to look after everyone was just incredible. So, yeah, big kudos to them in the way they handled it. And I think probably for myself, it's probably the way I went as well. I feel like if you get trapped in your own thoughts, you've got to try and, I guess, step away from it and help someone else. Or, even if you go give someone a shoulder to lean on, you're probably leaning on them just as much. So that's probably the way I went about it. Had some, young mates at the time at the footy club. So, sort of look after them, but at the same time I was looking after myself. And I think we just came together as a team. We were in a position to play finals, and I guess we just made the decision that how do we best honour Walshy, and what would he want us to do? And that would be to play finals, and that just became our motivation, just to train the way he would want us to train, play the way he would want us to play, and get ourselves into the finals and sort of honour him in that way for that season. But I know that first week we all just bottled it up, and it's right, we're going to play. We played West Coast in Perth, and for anyone that's seen that game, you see the guard of honour at the start, sort of for the national anthem, or the minute of silence, sorry, not the national anthem. And a few guys were, all right, I'll focus on footy, it'll get me through it. Some guys was, starting to cry and those sort of things. And then post-game, everyone just broke down into tears. It was like you hold on to that, you get through the game, and then you just break down. And the change rooms was family, friends, every player just bawling their eyes out. So
I was bawling my eyes out from home.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people were.
And, had no real connection to it. So just seeing, I can't even imagine what it was like to be within that environment.
It's like a beautiful example, I think, of what sport can do. Obviously, in a really traumatic time, I'm sure you would have felt pretty held by an entire community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sport can be really powerful in bringing people together.
So, lean on each other, lean on the coaches, fans, support that we had. And then out of that, we were able to get ourselves together and go, right, let's go play some finals for Phil. And, we're lucky enough to get a win in the finals. We had a really good game against the Bulldogs at the G. So, again, it almost felt like winning a grand final for that first game. And then I think we crashed out a bit the next week. As I said, that was probably our granny, and we'd had enough by that point. We were exhausted. So, but yeah, definitely the power of sport and the community and the club coming together to, I guess, band together and do him proud.
Did you have any time to sort of process in that off-season, or was it back to work, or did everybody scoot off to, Europe and Bali, sort of as you talked about? Or
yeah, I reckon everyone had pretty big trips that off-season. Yeah, for sure. And I guess, as I said, he'd sort of set up. That was the first year we played finals in a few years, and that was off of the way he trained us in the off-season. He was brutal. He was hard as, but at the same time, he had a real care for the group, and that's where so much respect came from as well. So we knew that he'd sort of set the group that we had up to be good for a long time, and then obviously 16 we improved a little bit, and 17 we went through the roof and made the granny. So I think everyone was pretty motivated to see that out and train pretty hard in the off season, but definitely probably had a bit of an extended break to start that off and just unwind and sort of I guess work our way through what exactly had happened, because as I said, for a while there, you sort of just put it to a side and get on with the job, and then at the end of the year, it was kind of like that actually happened.
Yeah, for sure. We'll finish on something a little lighter because we're almost at our 30-minute mark, and this is not loaded to pump up our man. But do you know how many fitness coaches you've probably had over the journey? A rough number at the Crowies.
It'd be 4 or 5.
Yeah. Is there one that stood out to you, or have they all been great in their own right? Is there anything that's really resonated with you for any particular? And it's not to say that the others are bad in any case, but is there one that's really sort of stood out to yourself?
Again, they've all been different.
Yeah.
All had the different ways. Like Nick Poulos was a real serious unit, and we weren't allowed music in the gym.
I was there with you at
Yeah,
that time, so I did
you
my
were too.
internship.
I don't think Sean would have ever been so quiet in a gym environment except under him.
Well,
Sean
we weren't
was
allowed.
petrified.
There was no pumping each other
Yeah.
up. Like if someone was working, you're not allowed to be talking. Like it was
eerie.
serious stuff.
The sound of footsteps in the gym was eerie.
Yeah.
I thank God for apps, but back in those dinosaur times, it was paper programs.
Yes. Yeah.
I would, and I've talked to Paulos since, and I love him dearly. He's a wonderful practitioner. With hindsight, I think I've grown to love that experience even more. But at the time, I felt, oh my God, like this is a big reality check of what the industry actually is. But I would turn 47 programs to the page, so you didn't have to turn any pages, Smithers. So I hope you appreciate that, mate. I would then, once you fit out your program, I'd take it to the computer and fill out every number of those 47 athletes of the weight.
Yeah.
I would mix up your protein shakes for you, so hopefully the consistency was nice. Make sure your pills were laid out nicely. And in one instance, I think he might have been taking the piss, but I weighed every single weight in the gym and put his actual. And saying
No, that's because I remember the numbers. So like the 20 kilo plate had 20.14 written on it.
That was me.
Like,
that was me.
Yeah.
Some of them were out by like 200 grams, so
that
it was
full
fair.
off. He was like, it needs to be.
But can you imagine 18-year-old Sean probably sulking around the gym?
And we're looking like, what is this intern doing? Have a look at him.
Thinking that I was going to be training, Brodie Smith and Texan, spotting bench presses. Nah, he's just lugging over 19.7765.
It was a good pump for you, though.
It was.
Carrying all
Yeah,
the
that's
weights to
resilience building.
Resilience,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got some great perspective now. So, no, good to hear. Paulos,
he was very
and
meticulous, and then even with him, if we were coming into a final series or we're in the top 8, it gets hotter in September. So it was the gym. He'd shut all the doors, crank the heater, and we'd have to wear all the skins we had, like long skins. And
do you remember what happened on the doors that couldn't shut though? Another one of my tasks.
Yeah, there was something like
I had
garbage bags or something.
Garbage bags.
Yeah.
That I'd stretch out and tape them to the wall, airtight, and then take them down. But no, not to pump up my own tyres.
Well, if you didn't do that, we wouldn't have had success. So.
Mate, hey, thank you so much for your time. We're very, very grateful. As I said, just an unbelievable character, an unbelievable career. We love having you as a part of this community, and the humility that you bring is just on another level, mate. So please pump up your tyres a little bit more. And also, congratulations, is soon-to-be dad. You got a little fella come along and
little Smithy's coming.
Little Smithy's coming in 18 weeks' time. Are you
start
feeling prepared?
Start of August. So, yes, we are. We were sort of, we're in a bit of a jam because we were going to knock the house down and build. So that's put that in the back burner a bit. So when we're starting to set up the house now, we're going to push that back a bit. So, Lisa's getting everything ready at home. She's starting to get the nursery ready, and so it's very exciting.
How many people have told you off that you are expecting in August? Because that's a no-no for football players.
Yeah,
surely.
I know.
Well, you have a window of October to probably March each year. Mate, you've missed it completely.
Yeah, I know. Well, I lost the battle there with Lisa. So, as we know, the wives are the boss. So
absolutely.
I sort of said, well, footy. And he said, footy, you serious? Like, we're going to have a first child. Don't worry about footy. I said, oh, okay, yep. And then it happened straight away.
Well
I'm
played.
like, August. round 20. So, yeah. But,
mate, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you continue your journey, both for the rest of this season, the rest of your career, and whatever happens afterwards. And let's go on a few jogs together once you're all wrapped up, mate.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
So there you have it, Brodie Smith. What a legend and a wonderful part of our community here at Peak. The two things that really stood out to me is, number one, that even elite athletes at the top level are starting now to work on being proactive in regards to their mental health as opposed to reactive. And also the power of sport, the power of the bond that can bring people together to work through really traumatic and tough times.